The black market of data gets exposed. I'm Marco Perry. Welcome to the Perry Platform. Where does your data go once it gets taken from you? What does the buyer/seller interaction look like? These questions are all answered by today's article. It sheds a little bit of light on the black market of data. So, Vice put out a report today detailing leaked documents that expose a secretive market for your browsing data, as they put it. Well, I guess it's not so secret anymore. It's out in the open. My initial thought when reading this headline, though, was, are we really surprised by this? I think the answer is no. You're going to see that and be like, yeah, it's a little bit shocking, but we knew it was there. We knew companies were stealing our data and selling it to each other and making a massive profit. Do we feel angry? Maybe a little bit, but I guarantee you, it's not going to stick. I think the reason for that, this lack of feeling, this numbness, is because we're so used to it. Every other week, there's a new report about Facebook doing something with your data, about Snapchat doing something, Twitter, Google, Microsoft, all of these companies that have become vital to our lifestyles are abusing our data. We seem to have accepted it as a cost of doing business. It's just the norm, but I don't think that's the right mindset. It shouldn't be. We should be fighting against this because data is the world's new gold. And even if you don't want to look at it economically, there's a whole swath of privacy issues that come with it. Your personal information is floating around out there, and who knows when it can come back to bite you. Who knows how it's being used against you. But we'll touch more on that in a second. So, the villain of this story today is Avast, a popular antivirus company. I'm sure you must have heard of them before. I think every computer comes with it by default or something like that. At least Windows computers. So, supposedly, they have a subsidiary, or in other words, another company under their ownership that sells every search, every click, every buy on every website of people who use Avast. The report states that their customers include the likes of Google, Microsoft, Pepsi, and McKinsey. Some regular offenders right there. So, this subsidiary is the one that is selling the data to those companies. Gee, I wonder, where does the subsidiary get that data from? Oh, there it must be. It must come from the parent company, Avast, an antivirus software that has granted virtually unlimited access to your browsing habits because it's supposedly trying to keep you safe. It has to know everything to protect you from a threat. In reality, that is simply a pretense though. Antivirus is more like Avast's hobby. They kind of suck at it too, really. What they're really into is stealing your data. That's their bread and butter, and that's how they make their money. And here's a crucial lesson for some of you to internalize. Free software like Avast isn't entirely without cost. When a product or a service is free, you are likely the product actually. Think about it too from a business perspective. Avast wouldn't be able to survive by simply giving you free products. It doesn't work like that. They need a way to generate profit. The same can be said for companies like Facebook. And how does Facebook do it? They sell ads, but that's not it. They sell high quality ads because they use your data to better target you. Companies give them a lot of money because they know who you are. It's a very precise marketing tactic. With Avast, they use the data and give it to companies so they can target you better themselves. Avast creates a portfolio about you and they sell that. In return for that exchange, you get this crappy antivirus software. That's the real deal. It's not free. You are trading access to your data, your info, for supposed security, and that's true with anything that is free. There is always an ulterior motive behind it because corporations are looking for ways to make profit. If they're giving you something for free, there is an alternate mechanism there that generates money. And the irony here is that if you look into it, look into the contract, I'm willing to bet that they told you about this. Now, I would put told in quotations though. So somewhere in their terms of service when you downloaded their software, there was likely a line about the right to withhold personal data for company reasons or something like that. Some equally nonsensical statement about their right to abuse your data. And they hide that in a lengthy document that nobody reads, and this is one of my pet peeves. Pretending as a society like that is informed consent is one of the more backwards practices that we still take up in modern places like Canada these days. The fact of the matter is, people are not informed despite the supposed opportunity to do so. It's contrary to the notion of consent. You fill these documents with jargon, unneeded information, and just bog it down to the point where nobody can read it. Companies make documents like these terms of services tiresome on purpose. If you knew what they were really going to do with your data and what their plan was for you, it's likely that you wouldn't use it still. If they told you openly, yeah, we're going to track all your info, we're going to sell it, and we're going to give you nothing, well, people might drop out. Now, not everybody. To some people, they might not care. They could see it as a fair deal for the security software. But to some portion of the populace, they're going to drop out, and Avast will lose money. Less people, less data, less info to sell to people. So, these terms of services, they are problematic, and to view them as a legitimate way of attaining consent is not appropriate. They really shouldn't be longer than maybe 3 pages maximum with legible fonts, not sized to things that you can't even read. These companies have to learn to summarize and to say what they mean better. Take away the jargon. Tell us the real terms of service here in plain language. It shouldn't be so obscene to the point where nobody understands and nobody wants to read them. I think that should actually be a law, and it's something that I would push for. But anyways, back to the story. So Avast is reportedly used by hundreds of millions of people. That's a lot of data. So Motherboard and PC Mag launched an investigation into Avast, and their findings are largely the basis of this article here. Leaked user data, contracts, and other company documents show that the sale of data included things like highly sensitive information and a vast swath of other details that they found out. And here's the funniest thing I've read in the article. They say, in many cases, the highly sensitive data is supposed to remain confidential between the company selling the data and the clients purchasing it. How lovely is that? Avast cares about you. They're scalping your data and making their buyers promise not to share it with anybody else. I guess if you tell a secret to someone and they share it with other people, but they make them promise not to spread it, it's okay. Wonderful. You'd have to be a fool to believe that that's where the buck stops. Of course, those companies who buy the data are leaking it further. The way they proudly view it is that they paid for it. It's theirs now, it's not your data. There isn't much honor among thieves. That's also especially true when data laws are lackluster at best. There is no accountability because rules aren't even fully formulated yet. These guys are running around like the Wild West with your data because nothing is stopping them. Now, I should probably mention too that the Avast subsidiary that we talked about goes by the name of Jumpshot, and those are the people who do the actual selling of the data. The order of events is essentially like this. Avast collects the information, they send it to Jumpshot, and Jumpshot makes it sellable. So the raw data by itself really doesn't have that much value. What they do is they put it into buckets and categories. So they'll create portfolios. You can use like Toronto, for example, and they have the age ranges there, the interest, the likes and whatnot, and they create a system of information that becomes valuable to a company. A target market analysis or even information about a particular segment that the company is looking for, so they can take that info and make money from it. So after the subsidiary makes everything look pretty, the report says that these packages of data can go for millions of dollars. Forget making money from antivirus software. Data is where the real cash flow is to be found. These investigators from Motherboard also asked some Avast users if they were aware of these data practices, and guess what they said? Guess what the consumer stated when it came down to figuring out if they were consenting to the data collection? They said, no, we had no idea that was happening, we didn't consent to it, and that's not surprising to me. Even if Avast told you, put quotations on that, it's going to be buried deep in the terms of service that nobody actually reads. There is no consent here. Nobody knew what was happening, and when they find out, they are shocked. According to the report, Avast was even monitoring your adult video usage. They saved what you searched for and even what videos you were watching. I'm sure some company would pay for that. And as you can see, there are no boundaries here. They're collecting everything they can because presumably any information is going to be valuable to some company or another. They see it as a way to make money. There's profit in all your information, and they have found a creative way to gather it and sell it. The question then becomes, what is the next step for these companies? When more and more of them start to put together some good packages, how do you stand out from the competition on this data black market? Maybe they start to do things like hack into your webcam to track your eye movement and see where you're looking on a web page to get accuracy about what things catch your eyes or something. Or maybe it becomes more nefarious than that down the road. There really is a massive slippery slope here that we are not doing anything to stop. Now, defenders of Avast will say, oh well, they didn't have your name or anything, so it's not like it's completely personal. There is some layer of anonymous protection being applied, but experts would argue that with this data that they do have, it's not impossible to figure out who you are, especially when you consider that they can track when you fill out a form online. When you sign up for something or you place an order, you give your name, they can track that. It's useless to try and water this down. It really is a clear example of a heinous privacy breach. Avast is clearly in the wrong here, and when some companies were asked why they were doing business with Avast in the first place, a lot of them declined to answer, or they gave a convenient excuse. For example, Microsoft didn't want to respond to anything. IBM said, oh no, we weren't their customers, even though the report says so. Southwest Airlines said, oh, we talked to them, but we didn't buy anything. Everyone's trying to play coy right now and trying to walk away from the disaster while Avast takes the fall. And then after, these companies are going to find another supplier. I guarantee you there's no shortage of data suppliers to be found. So there's more details about the story in the article, but now I want to talk about some more core themes here. First of all, it should be clear by now that if you have Avast on your computer, you should uninstall it. And in the future, think about the business model of companies who are trying to offer you something for free. It really isn't free. There's always the ulterior motive. If you can better identify that, you are in a better position to decide about whether or not to use or accept the product or service. For example, Netflix with their free trial. They want to get you hooked. The product is effectively addictive. Once you've been on it for a couple of months, you're likely going to stay because it's easy. First of all, they already have your credit card number. It's required to even get the trial in the first place. All you got to do is lay back and it's going to roll over into the next month and charge you. Be aware of that. If you actually do want to just use the trial, make sure you set the notification in your phone to tell you cancel the payment and whatnot. If you are using something like Facebook, just know the data you put on there is going to be sold and used against you. They're going to target you with ads because that's how they make money in return for the access to Facebook. And you might say that's a fair deal. I would rather have that than paying a monthly subscription, for example, and that's fine. Just be aware of the real terms of your agreement. Then with Avast, if you still want to use it, that's fine. Just know though that they are collecting your data and selling it. It's all about being aware. If you know what's going on and you consent to it, that's fine. Do you? But put in that work to make sure you are aware. Just know what's really going on behind the scenes. My second point here, and this should be clear by now, is that data really is the new gold. It's worth millions of dollars as we've seen in the article, and you're giving that away to greedy corporations for free? You should really regard this as something of value because it does have value. Imagine a world where we are holding Facebook accountable for making obscene profits off our data. Without our data, they don't make any money. There's actually some bargaining power to be had here in terms of the consumer. How about we get a piece of that? How about we sell you our data and you can make some more profit off of that, but we want a piece of it. And if you don't buy into that idea, we're gone. Somebody's going to create a new social media website like Facebook that doesn't collect our data, and we're going to hop onto that. If we put the pressures on these companies, there's actually a way to benefit from it. We have to band together though and be aware of just how valuable data really is. Then another step in this progression here is that the world needs to figure out too just how valuable data has become. Companies get away with data fraud and stealing it and selling it and whatnot because our laws suck right now, and even if we had stronger ones, who is going to enforce them? The police who are not trained in cyber fraud and whatnot? We need to have a better system first of all, and ways to hold companies accountable. At a very baseline level, I'm sure we can all agree that currently, right now, the field of data has become like the Wild West. There's no real rules here, and what the consumer wants, what the citizen wants, is being neglected. I can almost guarantee that most people don't like having their data stolen. They don't like having their adult video searches saved by a company and sold to someone else. They don't want to be tied to that. They actually expect some level of privacy. That's what I'd wager that people want, and that should be reflected in our laws, but currently the government is slacking. At a moral level, it's something that we do need. I don't think it's right for companies to be stealing that without properly consenting adults signing up for that practice in the first place. They're pulling a fast one over you, and they're making money hand over fist from it. Canada has actually started something called the Digital Charter, and it's meant to lay out our rights as users in the 21st century of the internet. Certain things like freedom of information and whatnot, having certain privacies guaranteed to us, these are things that they're trying to incorporate into that charter, and it's an amazing first step. That has to be fleshed out. We have to talk to people and see what they want. We need a vision of the future and a way to get there from where we are now. In the future, I don't think we want companies like Avast being to run around stealing our data and selling it for millions of dollars, especially when it is sensitive information being sold. Data that could potentially ruin someone's life if it comes to light. There is a level of privacy that is needed, and things like this charter have to uphold that. Then, if Canada figures it out, I would say even that the whole world needs it. Companies might stop doing certain illicit practices in Canada, but I think everyone deserves a certain level of privacy and respect when they go online. Some countries might not have the tools to enact a digital charter, and we should be helping them, holding a corporation accountable for what's truly correct. Similar to what's happened with child labor. It's not allowed in Canada, but in other countries it is, but Canadians are becoming more forceful with their condemnation of that. We are holding companies accountable. We're saying if you want to do something that we consider to be grimy, something that's unethical, we're going to stop shopping with you and we're going to cause your bottom line to hurt. You will listen to us. That's the message there. That same approach has to be applied to this realm of data. They have to be held accountable by the government and the people. We can't just be numb to it and let it go unchecked. It's a road to disaster. And you can kind of see that here. So what's going to happen with Avast now? Now that these reports are coming out that they're stealing your data and selling it through a subsidiary, the answer is likely nothing. It's going to be headline news for a little bit. People are going to talk about it, and in maybe a week, it's going to die down. Avast is going to go hide for a little bit. Then, in a month, they're going to resume business as usual. People are going to forget, and they're going to keep doing these same illicit data practices. There's nothing holding them accountable. There are no jail times being administered. There are no fines being dealt out. It's simply business as usual. That itself is very unfortunate, but that is the path that we are on. Things have to change, especially with things like the internet becoming more and more heavily relied upon for people's everyday lives. The internet really is a part of us now, and we have to hold companies accountable for the way they treat us within that realm. And we also have to hold ourselves accountable to seeking a higher level of respect. We can't simply just be like, it's okay if the companies do this. Otherwise, nothing is going to change. So, that now brings me to the end of today's conversation. If you enjoyed the content, be sure to leave a review and share. That'll help us grow. And you can also find me on Twitter and Instagram at PerryPlatform. Thanks for joining me, and I'll see you soon.